You know, I like you said, Air Force veteran, military intelligence, had a DoD company, but I think we can thank the Virginia ABC for getting me started in politics. And I think it all starts small when you feel like the government is destroying you or trying to weaponize regulations. The moment I knew I had to get in politics, I had a lobbyist tell me something. And that lobbyist said, if you're not at the dinner table, you're on the menu. And I was trying to help other people by myself for 4 years to deregulate some of those small business issues that would help people grow. And I had never been involved with politics. And you know, a lot of people have heard this story. I honestly thought, as an American citizen, a veteran, a successful CEO, that just with rational thought that you could change things, or if I went and talked to somebody in a district, a state legislator, that I could say, hey, look how bad this is. Why is this company and why is this industry paying 30 times the taxes, which it was, of this industry, and why does it seem like money is dictating where votes are? That was an honest question. They didn't like that question. And so for 4 years, I was fighting cronyism by myself. So being an Air Force veteran, there's good lobbyists and bad lobbyists. I had a bad lobbyist tell me, he said, you're just collateral damage. It doesn't matter if you're actually correct. You don't know how to play the game. You need to participate in the process. And what I saw is that participate in the process meant pay to play, and I rejected that. And so it was actually, I never got involved with politics. I believe, or government, I think government got involved with me. And when that happens, you really have 3 options. Number 1, you can run. Number 2, you can get in the fetal position and take it, right, and just get beat up. And number 3, you can fight. So my wife and I were sitting down one day and she goes, it's time to fight. And now I've been in federal politics 8 months of my entire life and had that little governor run for 10 weeks. All of it was based on the fact that I think that one person can make a difference.
That's great, that's incredible.
What we heard in the State of the Union, and this is actually all plays in and how I feel about things. I'm a freedom guy just based on what I've done in my life. Venezuela needs to have that opportunity. And when you talk about Maduro, I mean, you're talking about some pretty heinous acts that have happened in Venezuela, correct? There's a flip side of this, though. I don't think that we should actually intervene militarily. We're spread pretty thin across the world, so it's just dynamic, right? Where you want free markets and democracy and capitalism to thrive in Venezuela. And on the flip side, like, do we actually need to have any type of military intervention to enforce that? So I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a military guy who is not against, projecting power for a specific American interest. I'm not against that, but I think we have to be insanely careful about how we project that power and ensure that we're not looking like we're, overstepping our bounds in terms of countries and their own national laws. So it puts people like me in a pretty interesting position where I would rather see Venezuela do this themselves. I think we can offer support for democratic institutions, but I don't think we should have military intervention. Yeah, I think the first thing we do, and it's almost as if when you explain entrepreneurism to people who haven't been entrepreneurs and are making these regulations, they have no idea what the cascading effects of all these regulations are. Local, state, and federal regulations combine together to present this fabric you can barely get through as an entrepreneur. It's almost like a web, and you get stuck in all of the regulatory tape. So the first thing to do is, for instance, like financial services, I can look at regulations in the banking sector that releases that money to small businesses. There has to be areas in Dodd-Frank that we can retract from so that businesses can get money. Also, even I think there's a common sense thing here. I think we can incentivize, not through paying people or things like that. If you go into these areas, I think you can get some actual advantages for investing in those areas. For instance, in the jobs cuts and tax reform, or in the tax cuts and job reform bill, they started opportunity zones. Right, and I believe there's 212 opportunity zones per state, and you're looking at incredible tax advantages, not only in capital gains but long term. If you're to invest in these opportunity zones, I think when you look at how many there are, I think that's one of the least known advantages of the Jobs Act that the president signed. And I think there's an education that's needed on opportunity zones. But I think if you can deregulate and educate on opportunity zones and also make capital more accessible, I think you're going to see that explosion continuing in the job markets. And my job is to make sure. And by the way, if you look at minority hiring and minority businesses exploding and how they're rising, that is actually the key to American stability and growth in the future. There's no way around it. Small businesses and that type of growth is how we grow out of any type of issues that we might have economically.
Read it.
Yes, there is a double standard. Can you imagine if those three were Republicans right now? There would be marches on Richmond. And so what you have is you have a party that's been using hyperbole and trying to paint another party with the racist tag when it wasn't true, and using either gaslighting or false equivalencies. And now I don't think they know how to react to the own sins of their party. And that's what got me about this. So I was an intelligence officer, had some training in questioning people. And if say, let's use the governor for example. One day he said he did it, the next day he says he doesn't. The explanation absolutely holds no water. But then all of a sudden he said, well, I didn't actually say that. Right? And this is a governor that's talked about infanticide. This is a governor who said, oh, that was me in the picture, that wasn't me in the picture. And even lately said that actually it was indentured servants that came over instead of slavery, right? I mean, what's going on there? You have an attorney general who asked the governor to resign based on racial photos, and by the way, he comes out the next day or 2 days later says, oh, I did that too.
Yeah.
So then Governor Northam has asked Justin Fairfax to resign, right? And can you imagine what would have happened if that was a Republican in the lieutenant governor's seat right now? Now, I believe in due process, but with what even my family's gone through, the Me Too movement's very important. We have to take everybody absolutely face value what they say. That is something we have to do. There is due process. I think you have the governor and the attorney general did something stupid that they should resign for because they self-identified. They said each other should resign. So I'm not sure. And then you have a lieutenant governor who they're asking him to resign. So they have a circle knife fight there with Democrats trying to destroy each other. And I think that's really indicative of the Democratic Party today. If you're going to get stuck in the identity politics loophole and you get caught into yourself, you self-destruct. So they have self-identified, they're self-destructing, and I think as the last Native Virginian in the congressional delegation, I can honestly say they're an embarrassment to my Commonwealth. No, I actually believe has a chance. I think they might pick a candidate that's so far left that it takes away the center left and the moderates. I think if you get a Kamala Harris or a Cory Booker, I think Virginia is going to go Republican. If they don't, now there's going to be people that are tough. I think Joe Biden would be tough. Being very honest here, I think if you have a moderate Democrat that comes into this, President Obama or Hillary Clinton was very moderate. I mean, we can talk about it. She was very moderate. She just changed her views based on whatever the political winds were like, right? She's a pure politician. That's her gig. I think if you have somebody that's a moderate, they're probably they have a good chance of winning. I'm talking about a moderate Democrat, but if you get somebody from the far left, I think Virginia's in, right? And I think you're looking at Virginia's an interesting state. It really is. It's 3 states in one. You have massive difference in demographics. But what if, and I know this is crazy, what if you have a Republican who can speak to the center right, the center left, and somebody, even if you disagree, that Republican's transparent and not looking to always go up the ladder? What happens if you have something like that? I think the Republicans have a chance to win.